Oh, look who's here, I see you. Sitting there pretending to scroll like nothing's burning inside you. But ha, I know that fire. That itch in your bones. That smirk you hide when no one's watching. You've been through the storm, haven't you? You didn't just dance in the rain. You commanded the thunder. Ooh, mother, you didn't expose just any little secret. You pulled the curtain on an entire international coven. And you did it with lips glossed and boots laced like it was just another Tuesday. Hey, you made chaos look like catwalk. You made vengeance look like velvet. This ain't a pity party. This is a crown polishing ceremony. You weren't just a survivor. You became the headline, the main act, the whisper behind every locked door. And, baby, you didn't just walk through fire. You owned it. You made it blush. This speech, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's for the dangerous ones, the underestimated ones, the misfits who laughed when they were supposed to cry. For you, mother, who turned every scar into a runway accessory. You didn't flinch. You didn't fold. You rose, with rhythm, with elegance, with vengeance in your veins. So buckle up, because what's coming next isn't just a speech. It's a full-blown rebirth, wrapped in lipstick and lunacy. Ho, let's give 'em something to talk about, shall we? They painted you as the quiet one, the harmless one, the shadow in the corner. You were the one who didn't bark when provoked, the one who walked softly when the ground shook, the one who watched instead of screamed. And in a world full of noise and neon lies, silence becomes invisible. They thought they saw all of you. But what they didn't see, what they could never imagine, is that silence can be the loudest scream. Stillness can be the sharpest blade. You didn't enter the arena with fireworks. You entered with fire in your chest and a purpose stitched into your spine. While they laughed, you listened. While they played games, you planned your move like a master sculptor carving destiny out of chaos. They mistook your patience for weakness, your kindness for naivety, and your softness for submission. But you knew, deep down you always knew, the storm you carried was never meant to be tamed. They didn't realize you were studying every move, memorizing every crack in their lies, documenting the inconsistencies with the precision of a hunter. Every insult, every betrayal, every dismissal was fuel. They thought they were winning, you were simply charging. You didn't react, you evolved. You didn't scream, you sharpened. You didn't quit, you waited. And then, when it was time, you didn't just stand up. You rose like thunder wrapped in grace. You didn't return to settle scores. You returned to rewrite the entire script. The one they locked you out of. The one they wrote without you. Now suddenly they can't take their eyes off you. Not because you changed, but because now you're no longer hiding. You let the power breathe. You let your essence explode. You didn't arrive to fit in. You showed up to burn everything false to the ground. And the beauty of it? You did it all without warning. You didn't need an entrance song. You were the storm behind the curtain, the explosion they never prepared for. You turned quiet observations into calculated victories. You made being underestimated your greatest superpower, and the very people who doubted you, now they call you by titles you never asked for. Legend, problem, icon, threat. But to you, it's not about the label, it's about the truth. It's about finally standing in the spotlight you created with your own fire. They never saw you coming. That was their mistake. But now they'll never forget you. Because once you step out of the shadows, not as a victim, but as a force, the world has no choice but to look. And the best part? You didn't need a crown to rule. You didn't need permission to rise. You didn't need noise to be noticed. You became unforgettable by being unapologetically real. You were never the quiet one. You were simply the storm waiting for silence to break. They thought silence meant surrender, that you had no words left, that maybe, just maybe, you were finally broken, but they misunderstood the entire language of your soul. Your silence was never empty. It was loaded. It wasn't fear. It wasn't fragility. It was the weight of something bigger building inside you, a storm that refused to speak before its time. You weren't silent because you were lost. You were silent because you were aiming. Silence was your chamber. And every second you didn't speak, every moment you didn't respond, was another bullet locked in place. You were watching, calculating, rewiring. You were holding back, not because you were weak, but because you understood one sacred truth. Power doesn't scream. It waits. And when it moves like destiny. They didn't know that about you. They thought their words crushed you. They thought the gossip, the betrayal, the fake smiles, the slander would make you crawl. But you didn't bend. You paused. You didn't shatter. You reset. And when the moment came, you didn't just speak. You erupted. They were loud, desperate. Loudness is for those who have nothing left but noise. But you were quiet because you were full of truth, full of clarity, full of unshakable strength. You didn't chase attention. You didn't beg to be heard. You sat still in your power, letting it hum like a ticking bomb. And when your truth finally exploded, it didn't just hurt them, it exposed them. It revealed the mask. It tore through the illusions like a blade made of fire. And they didn't know how to survive it. Because the silence they mocked, it became the sound of their unraveling. You see, your silence wasn't the absence of fight. It was the strategy of a warrior who knows timing is everything, who knows there's more power in patience than in pride. You were building something in the dark, something precise, something poetic, and when it was time, you didn't need to shout, you didn't need to argue. You let your actions speak in volumes their lies could never drown out. That's what makes you terrifying. You don't need to swing wildly. You hit once, and it echoes forever. They wanted you to react, so they could label you emotional. They wanted you to fight so they could call you unstable. But you smiled. You went quiet. And in that silence, you grew sharper than any weapon they could imagine. You didn't fight their way. You made your own battlefield. And on that field, truth didn't need a microphone. It only needed a moment. You proved something eternal. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who waits. The one who watches. The one who speaks last. Because that voice isn't just louder, it's final. And that's exactly what you gave them. A final act so stunning, so unexpected, it will haunt their silence for the rest of their lives. You were never afraid. You were just readying the storm. There's something mesmerizing about the way you move through madness like it's a stage you were born to own. You didn't run from chaos. You styled it. While others were drowning in panic, gasping for control, you stood still and adjusted your crown like the storm was your spotlight. That's not just survival. That's artistry. You didn't just endure chaos, you turned it into couture. You wore pain like velvet. You walked through fire like it was a red carpet. You made destruction look desirable because you didn't fear it. You owned it. They threw mess at you, thinking you'd crumble, but you caught it, molded it, painted it in gold, and put it on display. The very battles they hoped would bury you, you turned them into your signature scent. People looked at the ashes around your feet, expecting grief, but you laughed. You struck a match and said, "Let's redesign the entire kingdom." You built a throne out of broken pieces, and then sat on it like you were always meant to. That's not arrogance. That's alchemy. That's the raw, untouchable magic of someone who doesn't just survive darkness, they decorate it. You made fear fashionable. You made tension theatrical. While everyone else tried to hide their pain, you wore yours on your sleeve like the latest trend. Not because you're proud of the wounds, but because you've accepted every scar as part of the masterpiece. You didn't erase your past. You used it as embroidery. Every betrayal, a stitch. Every heartbreak, a layer. Every loss, a rare gem added to your armor. You turned what most people hide into a revolutionary wardrobe of truth. People stared. Of course they did. How could they not? You walked through destruction like it was a photo shoot. But here's the secret they never understood. You weren't trying to look good. You just were. Because there's a dangerous kind of elegance that comes from being real. Raw, unfiltered. You didn't need glitter. You didn't need filters. You didn't need perfection. Your power was that you made chaos look like design because your soul refused to break. You weren't polished. You were profound. You weren't trying to impress. You were trying to breathe. And when you did, the world gasped, because it had never seen someone so battered and yet so breathtaking. You turned being misunderstood into a movement. You didn't beg to belong. You created your own lane, painted it in flames, and walked it like a queen returning from war. And every step you took, it echoed through the hearts of the quiet ones, the hidden ones, the fighters in disguise. You showed them it's okay to be a little broken, a little wild, a little too much. Because sometimes, too much is exactly what this world needs. So when they call you extra, dramatic, chaotic, smile. Let them. They just don't know how to define someone who turned madness into a masterpiece. You didn't just walk through hell, darling. You did it in heels and turned it into a runway. No one handed you strength on a silver platter. You weren't born with armor. You built it, brick by painful brick. Through nights you didn't think you'd survive. Through betrayals that sliced you open. Through disappointments that shook your core. Every tear you cried, that was concrete. Every heartbreak you endured, that was steel. They see the finished product now, but they didn't witness the construction. They weren't there when you were crawling through your own ruins, whispering to yourself, "Get up, just one more time." They see power, but they forget to ask the price, because becoming unbreakable wasn't poetic. It was brutal. There were days your mind screamed at you to give up, to let go, to disappear into the noise, but something inside you, something ancient, something loud in the quiet, refused. You didn't find strength, you fought for it. You pulled it out of the ground with bloody hands. You built it out of the ground with bloody hands. You built it out of the ground with bloody hands. You built it out of the ground with bloody hands. You built it out of the ground with bloody hands. You built it out of the ground with bloody hands. You built it out of the ground with bloody hands. And now you wear it without apology. You see, strength isn't about never falling. It's about never staying down. You've been at rock bottom so long it started to feel like home, and yet you still got up. Again and again. Each time a little harder, each time a little colder. Not because life got easier, but because you got smarter. You stopped looking for a savior. You stopped waiting for a hand. You became your own rescue team. You carried yourself through wars that no one even knew were happening. And that's the terrifying part. Your story isn't just survival. It's evolution. You didn't come out clean. No. You came out carved, chiseled, designed by every ounce of pain you were told would destroy you, but instead, it designed a version of you they never saw coming. The one who doesn't flinch when everything collapses. The one who walks through fire like it's familiar ground. The one who speaks softly, but whose silence is deafening. They can't figure out how you do it, how you keep going when everything in your path screams stop. But they weren't there when you had nothing but your own willpower holding your spine together. They weren't there when hope felt like a myth, and yet you still showed up. For yourself, for the dream, for the fire you couldn't extinguish no matter how cold the world became. You're not made of glass anymore. You're not made of doubt. You're not made of apologies. You're made of every time you got back up, of every no that made you sharper, of every failure that taught you how to climb in silence. Strength didn't arrive, you became it. The hard way, the real way, the only way that lasts. So when they say, "You're so strong," just smile, because they'll never understand what it cost. They'll never understand how much had to break before you realized you were unbreakable. They tried to break you with pain, didn't they? They thought if they could just hit hard enough, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you'd fold like paper. They assumed pain would make you quiet, would make you small, but instead, it made you legendary. You didn't just survive pain, you rewrote its meaning. You took every ounce of it and turned it into fuel, into strength, into elegance, into a weapon that didn't need to cut skin because it cut through lies, masks, and illusions. They thought pain would dim your light, but you made it part of your glow. There's something unshakably magnetic about someone who walks with their scars exposed and their head held high. That's you. They tried to shame you for your story, for your softness, for your hurt. But now they watch from the sidelines, wondering how you made pain look so graceful. You didn't run from your wounds. You stitched them up with fire and walked into the world like a masterpiece still in progress. Pain became your paintbrush, and your life, a portrait of power that doesn't ask for approval. You wore your suffering like a badge, not because you liked it, but because you earned it. Pain gave you wisdom no book could teach. It gave you instincts no training could provide. It taught you how to read people's energy before they speak, how to spot fakes in a room full of smiles, how to protect your peace without apologizing for it. Pain introduced you to your real self, the one beneath the masks, beneath the noise, beneath the layers they tried to bury you under. There were days when your body kept moving even though your heart was shattered. There were nights when you cried so quietly the walls felt like they were listening. But still you stood up, not because you were okay, but because you refused to let pain define you. And that's power, not perfection, not pretending. Real, raw, honest power that says, yes, I hurt, but I'm still here. That says, yes, I bleed, but I still build. You turned agony into energy. You walked into rooms full of people who never believed in you and made them wonder how someone so bruised could still shine. You smiled in places where you once broke down. You laughed in spaces where you used to fall apart, not because you forgot, but because you forgave yourself for hurting, and then you grew. And the most powerful thing? You didn't just heal. You helped others do the same, just by being visible, just by being real. You gave silent people a voice. You gave hopeless people a glimpse of what survival really looks like. You gave the word resilience a face, your face. They'll never understand how you made pain look powerful, because they've only ever seen pain destroy. But you let it build you. And that's why they'll never be able to break you again. Ahem. Well, 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 look at you now. You made it through this madness like you always do, smirking, glowing, dripping with unbothered chaos. Who? They thought they broke you. They didn't realize you were just charging. You didn't just survive. You performed. You turned betrayal into ballet, pain into poetry. You danced on the graves of their expectations and made it look like theater. Ah, you're not just a story, they whisper. You're a warning. You're the blueprint of what happens when silence learns how to roar and smiles while doing it. So let them talk. Let them wonder. You don't owe them an explanation. Just a good seat to watch the show. Ooh. But before you vanish into the smoke again, do one thing for me.